We will be moving on to the design discussion on urban planning and changing design sensibilities. Conducting this session will be our moderator, Mr. Gurjot Bhatia, Managing Director, Project Management Group, CBRE in India, Middle East and North Africa. Gurjot, with career spanning over 20 years, has extensive experience in managing projects at the executive level for several major multinational clients with a consolidated project portfolio of over 700 million square feet. A very warm welcome. I'd like to now introduce you to our eminent speakers in an alphabetical order. I would like to welcome Mr. Anubhav Gupta, Business Head Vikhroli, Head CSR and Sustainability, Founder GPL Design Studio, Godrej Properties. Anubhav Gupta is a global award-winning design thinker, strategist and innovator whose work straddles both the business and design worlds across industries and asset classes. He founded the GPL Design Studio at Godrej, a unique multidisciplinary innovation engine with a mandate for design, product development, brand building, and creation of unique customer experiences. I'd like to welcome our next speaker for the session, Professor Charanjit Singh Shah, Founding Principal, Creative Group. Adorably called as Airport King, Professor Charanjit Singh Shah is an architect, planner, and infrastructure expert with 5 decades of practice. He is an author, scholar, educationist, teacher, art and architecture critic. His works include architecture and development of large infrastructure projects like airports, metro, railway station, transit-orient development, intermodal hub, and creating smart cities. We also have with us on the panel Mr. Jayant Vaitha, Director and Head Design Services, Colliers International, India. Jayant has over 30 years of extensive experience in design and architecture of several large-scale projects in India and abroad. He has been instrumental in spearheading the design team for large-scale design assignment for Colliers in India, Middle East, and Africa. Also on the panel, we have Mr. Pankaj Dharkar, Director, Pankaj Dharkar and Associates, National Chairman, GEM Council, ASSOCHAM. Pankaj Dharkar is a renowned MEP and green building consultant and an ASHRAE and IGBC fellow. During his rich experience of 40 years, he has successfully designed and coordinated more than 4,000 projects of various applications. On the panel, we also have Mr. Vijay Wadhwa, Chairman Emeritus, the Wadhwa Group. Vijay Wadhwa has been instrumental in shaping the Wadhwa Group to its current position as one of Mumbai's most respected real estate developers. He has over 50 years of experience in the real estate industry and is known for designing practical buildings, while he is also well known for his passion to build landmarks. A very warm welcome to all you gentlemen. It's a privilege to have all of you on the screen with us at one time. I'd now request a moderator to please take over the proceedings. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you.
If everyone can hear me, see me.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Bhatia.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good evening to all my fellow panelists and everybody else. I know this is the last session, as Kathy said, but I'm assuming that the organizers saved the best for the last. So let's give it our best. So, you know, Kathy has already done the introduction. So I'm amongst so many experts from different fields. What I'm excited about is that, you know, while we've got Abhinav, who looks after CSR and sustainability, that is your passion. Professor Shah on the infrastructure side. Somehow I can't see Professor Shah on the screen, so I don't know if he's there. Kathy, you might want to check. And then Jayant, you look after design. Yeah, I can see Professor Shah coming up.
Yeah.
I can see him now. Good evening, Professor Shah.
Good evening. Good evening.
And
how are you, everybody?
Great. And also, Pankaj, again, your passion being sustainability. Rahul, again, a lot of experience on architecture and planning. And last but not the least, of course, Mr. Wadhwa, I don't need to say much. You know, the work that done in the organization has done, building a lot of infrastructure in India, especially in Mumbai, is speaks for itself. So I'm looking forward to make the best of this. Uh, and when I looked at the topic, it speaks. I divided that into two parts. So one is urban planning, and then it talks about changing design sensibilities. And I was intrigued at the organizers or this or someone who thought about this topic having put these two together, and I thought this makes a huge amount of sense, especially in today's context of the overall world that we live in and what the world is going through today, given the pandemic. Uh, and I'll try to warm up the session, to kickstart the session uh, by describing the importance of both these parts of the session topic. Coming to urban planning, why is it important? I'm sure it's a rhetorical question, but I want to share some statistics which I came across. As by 2050, as per various reports, the World Bank reports, there will be 6.5 billion people in the world who will live in urban areas, which is going to be two-thirds of the projected world population by 2050. And I came across something even more interesting as to
Mr. Bhatia, just
Yeah.
give me a second to come back and redirect all of you that because it is digital, it's a new space for all of us. Can I request you to just pull down your camera a little so that we can see you? Your head space is getting cut off.
Okay.
And I would like to apologize. Mr. Kadri is here. I was unaware, so I would like to once again invite him. Mr. Kadri took over the reins of the practice from his father. I am Kadri in the 1990s, a period marked by significant shifts in India's socio-cultural landscape. And in response, Kadri focuses on practice on social consciousness and urban ecological sensitivity. So very warm welcome to you, sir, and to all of you. Yes, it's a new space, so if any disturbances, just please mute your mic when you're not speaking. But let's get this conversation started. I'm so sorry to disturb this conversation. Once again, over to you, Mr. Bhatia.
Okay, no harm done. Thank you so much, Kathy. And I was quoting another important data point, which is actually from 2016. It says that by 2030, the top cities with urban population, if you look at 65 years ago, the world we lived in, New York was the biggest city. It had 12 million population. But by 2030, it would be Tokyo, surprisingly at the top of the list, followed by Delhi, Shanghai, Mumbai, Beijing, Dhaka, Karachi. I look at 10 cities and I find 8 of them are actually in Asia, which are going to be the most urbanized, most populous cities in the world. But there is a sad aspect to it. I compared it with which are the most sustainable cities. And I found none of these top urbanized cities in the list of most sustainable cities, as per the World Economic Forum report. Most sustainable are still cities like Zurich, Singapore, Stockholm, Vienna, so on and so forth. So somewhere something is missing, right? While we're looking at the quantity of urbanization, urban population, moving in a particular direction, somewhere I think there is a gap in the way topics like sustainability, inclusiveness, etc., is being looked at. So, and the data speaks for itself. So, with that being the warm up or the Kickstarter, the way we're going to run this, we all agreed, is that we have questions which I think will do justice to the topic and the conversation, and in no particular order. I'll go from one to one. And since time is of essence, I will start with you, Mr. Anubhav Gupta. And the question is, do you think that the end user or the society's expectations from urban planning and their design sensibilities are changing faster? We live in a world of technology. The rate of acceleration of technology and communication is increasing year by year, I would say month by month. So what are your thoughts on this? That are the expectations of the society vis-a-vis urban planning changing along with time?
So thanks Gurjot, and thanks Sapna for having me on this. Thanks for the great warm-up. Definitely I think preferences and sensibilities are changing. And I think a lot of it has to do with the changing demographic. We are seeing millennials as they are called. We are also seeing a fair amount of exposure because people are traveling overseas to different places, and I guess in India, they are making a demand for such sensibility. Let me kind of just walk you through a few things that at least we are seeing as developers. So, people are not just thinking about buildings anymore, they're thinking about the spaces between buildings. And when I say that, from simple things like crosswalks and sidewalks to more program spaces, the structuring of streets, squares, plazas, parks, things like that, I think have become quite important. Also, I think people realize the benefits of mixed use, and especially from the better organic suburbs that they see in their city. So there's a reason why places like Bandra and South Bombay and even Powai, for that matter, have been successful. So this opportunity to live, learn, work, play within a vicinity, I think, is becoming quite important. Infrastructure is in focus. Live-work relationships are changing. People are trying to be more sustainable. A, because of climate change and the looming impacts of climate change, but B, because they've just realized that it's better to be able to walk to work, and when they walk to work, they want it to be a pleasant walk rather than for it to be through traffic or old streets and so on and so forth. I think there's something around identity and placemaking of where they live, of their neighborhoods, and overall, these are all tenets of good urban planning. And traditionally, you can think about this when you have large tracts of land and a fair amount of time to plan it. And in places like India, the government has normally done projects like that. Now we're seeing a lot of developers in the recent, I'd say decade or so, that are planning townships, who are aware of this, who can see the demand, and are catering to some of these things. I mean, we've ourselves done a project in Vikhroli called The Trees, where we've got a mixed-use development, where we've got a hotel, we've got two commercial buildings, we've got a residential buildings, we've got civic buildings, and we've consciously stayed away from we've done basements, so the motor car is not seen as much. We've preserved greenery, for example. So the idea is to be able to give people livable spaces, as it were, and I think it's been successful. Of course, you do need larger tracts of land. You do need to have the benefit of putting together a planning framework which over time incrementally with the market builds itself in a sort of sustainable and viable way.
Great, thanks, Anubhav. I think that also brings me to ask a follow-up question, for which I'd like to go to Professor Shah. So when we look at cities, we obviously, what takes priority comes in front is the human, and that's what cities are all about. But you also worked, but humans also use infrastructure, airports, railway stations, all those things, and you have a lot of experience there. So I'd like to ask you, what is the first thing you look from a design perspective when you're looking at a holistic urban planning, development of infrastructure in a city or city as a whole? Professor Shah, you're on mute. I'm guessing we can't hear Professor Shah.
Yeah, thank you, Gurjot ji, and nice that I have such eminent, speakers along with me. Just to add to what I have understood from my 50 years of my legacy in architectural engineering practice, and but or whatever, maybe it's a mega project or a micro to micro level, I wish that let's see that we are more sustainable. And today, what we see during COVID, that we were absolutely static. And when we were static, we were near to the nature. and we could see that the great pollution which was there, particularly in Delhi, PM raising to 2.5 and PM 10 to 400 actually came down below the normal. So we have to see that the planning which we are thinking of, even today we're talking about the airport, we're talking about how the capacity building of the existing buildings could be, seen, not that you add on to the building. And today, after COVID particularly, and also the type of Gurjot has told you about the urban, the pressure, we need to see how the minimalistic architecture and human settlement needs to be addressed. Not that we do not always used to have only capacity building in terms of areas, in terms of larger human settlement, and which is becoming that today what is happening is that I don't wish that we are nomadic, but even I don't wish that we become robotic, and we're becoming so technologically enslaved that everything is coming on the surface, and we see that it's getting so much of pressure in terms of air, water, and sound pollution in the city. And cities have no more, like a place where we can really live in. And therefore, as my friend as Anubhav has said very rightly, today is the time that we need to dig out areas, open areas, piazzas, large, facilities which is green in the city, and we are with the nature, at least on the surface, and we take all our services, everything underground, not that we learn from New York of Manhattan to, Tokyo or to other places, but yet we need to see that how all those things which are today has become a necessity as a technology goes down into the underground, and we have large open areas which are there on the ground. So that is what I wish, that through the larger infrastructure projects in the airports, or into the mixed-use development, or into the larger redevelopment of the railway station. We have about 12, 13 railway stations we are doing. So there we need to see that how the intermodality, the last mile connectivity, and more open spaces can be generated, wherein we add to the green, and we can really see that it works for the people. Cities are meant for the people to live, to walk around, than only the transport. And today, unfortunately, wherever we go, we see one layer to another layer. We could call it, like a metro, a speed metro, a rapid metro, or a flyover, or a foot-over bridge, and many more layers are just interfacing with the city, and the city where the people live, it is being shadowed, and we do not get the nature in. So perhaps today is the time. And with this COVID, I wish that we understand the psyche of the human, and we go for the development which is absolutely humane and which has a touch, and which I generally say that let's create the cities which are meant for the people and for the place. And once we make the cities for the people and the place, I can definitely say that you put life into the city, and that is like you're putting soul into the city, and it starts breathing. So lastly, I will just conclude with saying this, that let's see that built mass should not be looked upon as a mass of brick and concrete, but as a living organism which breathes and which is embodied with nature. Once we create organism and organic architecture, and be away for the cosmetic architecture and the material, try to be more local, let's see that we create Indian sustainable smart cities of tomorrow, where we have the belongingness of the people and the place. So thank you, Gurjot. I think we have constrained in time. So over to you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Shah. That was great and very insightful what you shared. And I think I read this placard somewhere. I don't know where I saw this, where somebody had a placard saying, "Let's reclaim our cities." So I think bottom line, what you're saying is that let's reclaim our cities for the human benefit, rather than, in the 1950s and 60s, it was the cars taking over the urban planning, where the buildings were being designed around cars and parking. So, and then there are many layers, as you rightly said. We all agreed to the audience that, we will not make this session about COVID-19, but it would be amiss not to mention, because this is in many ways, something which has impacted the world, and we will never go back to world as we knew it. God willing, we will, but or maybe we'll become better is what I hope and pray for. But I want to ask you, Jayant. Maybe this data will come up later. Maybe it already is there. Maybe we are seeing that some cities are said to have higher cases of COVID-19 infection, and somewhere it is less. It has to do, I'm sure, with many other things, many things like the medical readiness and healthcare system, etc. But do you think urban planning has a role to play today as we see it, or in the future? When something like this happens.
Yeah, thank you, Gurjot, and it's wonderful being with all you guys. So this is a very relevant question today, and taking it after Mr. Professor Shah, what has mentioned that yes, I mean, if you look at it, you see a different patterns, right? There are statistics coming out that some cities seems to have more cases and some cities have a less cases, and being probably being an equal density. Like if you see that Tokyo as one of the densest city, and still the number of cases there is not so much compared to New York, right? Like, so what is the difference, right? And of course the urban planners are asking each other, why is it like that? So what if you look at it, what is coming out is that what the cities which are having more suburbs, the cities which are designed on hub and spoke systems, right? The cities which has a sort of a kind of modules of ecosystems, right? Like where, like say today, the Paris or has come up with a thing called 15-minute city, right? Where all your requirement is within that 15 minutes, like, and it's wherever the city is designed on an active mobility, where the people are sort of be able to satisfy their daily requirement by going around on a foot cycle, don't have to use the public transport, and those are the city. However would be the density would be, you would see lesser cases, like, and that is what it sort of made a lot of urban designer thinking that are we going on a right way, right? Like, have we been designing our cities rightly? The pandemics will be there, something else will be there, but is your urban design is pandemic proof? So how you go about it, right? Like, so a lot of urban planners are coming over on ideas that okay, why not to have the cluster cities around the main cities where the pandemic or any similar thing can be contained within those clusters or the suburbs, like, and why not to have the entire mobility restricted to a walkable area where people people can walk to work, people can sort of have all their requirements satisfied in a neighborhood areas, So this is actually what you see that, like the cities like Mumbai or second cities, the second tier 2 towns have a difference of cases, happening. There is a pattern to be read about, and I think somewhere the causes there in the design of the cities. I would say that is what need to be explored. Whichever the cities has sort of access to the core services in the suburb, those cases, those cities, you will see lesser pandemic, right? Like, lesser cases coming out. So wherever there is a kind of a more public spaces are there, people will say that, like, you would see definitely lesser cases of the pandemic, coming out. So that is what it is, like, I mean, this all lead to sort of increased city and regional planning, right? Where the city is made out of the region and not the city is the center to a kind of a single megapolis, like that's the difference between New York and London, probably Tokyo and New York, like the way the whole thing is happening. So that is my take on that. There are a lot more aspects of the urban planning, but that will come to that the next questions, where the transport system is playing major role, where you can avoid a sort of a transport system to a greater extent for daily need. You will find more sustainable neighborhoods and more sustainable cities, and also at the same time lesser impacted by pandemic. So that's my take on that. Happy to take any other further points which you have it on that.
Sure. No, no, thank you. Again, there's a lot to ask and a lot to talk about, but we are time constrained. Probably that's why they put a project manager as a moderator, which is me. So I hope I'm able to finish this project on time. Because one of the key aspects, which if time permits, I'd like to go to, and maybe, Pankaj, I'll come to you. This was not scripted, but I'll still throw it in because it's really close to me. One is, how should we, so whenever we talk about urbanization, planning in urban areas, economy or the economics of it comes into question, and especially in not so rich countries. I don't want to use the word poor because we're rich in many ways more than economics, but not so rich countries like our country. And then, the government angle is very, very, we got, Mr. Wadhwa on the panel and everybody else in your own, or Anubhav from Godrej, companies have done fantastic work, everyone. But then we have the establishment, the institution, the government, which makes policies, which is the big builder in our country. So how do you think these can be tied together? How can the government support sustainable, safe urban infrastructure, even from an economics perspective? And going forward, I'll just throw in one more point, is technology, because I do want us to talk about technology today, because that has changed the world in the last 6 months. At a personal level, I think all of us have felt technology more than we ever have. So any of these points that you would like to dwell on, Pankaj? I think you're on mute, Pankaj. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurjot. I think first of all, let me thank Reality Plus for giving me opportunity to share dais with such eminent personalities. Two of you are great PMCs of the country. Two of my esteemed customers, Godrej and Vijay Wadhwa. I'm doing my life's best project with Vijay Wadhwa, and I would not hesitate to putting on record that in and near Mumbai, what he's building in Panvel is going to be one of the best example of sustainability, which is a topic today. And we are fortunate that after working for 40 years, he gave us this opportunity, and it will be a showcase. I'm sure I will not like to steal the thunder. I would like him to talk about it, but wonderful project coming up near Mumbai, which will become a absolute example of best possible practices. Also sharing dais with architects like Rahul Kadri ji and Mr. Charanjit Singh is a great honor to me. So friends, I think as the moderator started that today more than 50% of global population lives in cities, and the number is fast growing. It is estimated that the urban population is going to be doubling its size. Nearly 70 out of 100 people in the world will live in cities. India's economic survey of 2018 estimates that, as Sir said, will reach 650 million by 2031. And India's urban population is currently the second largest urban community of the world. So many architectural findings are showing that we will have to build 1 million per city per week, with 8 lakhs per family during this next 15 years. If we don't solve this equation, people will have to come anyhow to the cities, but they will have to live in slums and informal settlements, and which we are already experiencing in cities like Mumbai and many big cities. So urbanization in India is not just because of job opportunities, better income in big cities, but also due to inadequate rural economy, lack of employment, rural poverty, and unsustainable livelihood. Cities in India will need to create hundreds of new housing, provide access to quality education, healthcare, service, water and transportation infrastructure to accommodate the flow of migrants. City infrastructure such as water supply, sewage, solid waste management and transport are all under pressure. Urban planning is critical to ensure success of cities. An alternate to building new cities to face the urbanization phenomena is to manage the growth of the existing cities. Local government role is a main function. Challenges and solutions related to urbanization process is very, very crucial. The urban transportation is shifting away from petrol-dependent systems, and local government support in implementing alternate solutions to tackle the urban mobility challenges cities are currently facing is extremely important. Government plays important regulatory role in safe and sustainable development of cities. However, the technical and financial capacities of many local government are insufficient to fulfill all the requirements. Hence, local and regional leaders and their association should have strong support from national government to achieve their goals. So national, state and city level spatial planning is a key instrument in achieving social, territorial and economic development within India. And there are various options available to enable investments in strategic infrastructure and urban development, and one such tool which is picking up in India is a tool of public-private partnership we call PPP, and PPPs can accelerate infrastructure development by tapping the private sector, financial resources and skills in delivering infrastructure effectively and efficiently on a whole life cycle cost basis. The Smart City Development Plan proposed by Government of India will help in improving the quality of life, urban sustainability and the overall economy through smart solutions is my take, sir.
Great. I think that was, Mr. Dharkar, that was very, very comprehensive. I think you addressed both the points as to, how the government can support at the local, at the central level. And you named two important tools. One is the PPP model, which we've seen grow over the last many years. And also the smart cities concept, which is very much here, and we wish it to grow by leaps and bounds. In interest of time, I'll go to you, Mr. Kadri. IMK has been your firm, very well respected, has been responsible for thought leadership and infrastructure and developments in and around Mumbai. Could you highlight the core focus, challenges, and solutions for the future? With special mention of Mumbai, Mumbai is the face of our country, when we talk about it. So what do you think lies in future for a city like Mumbai?
Gurjot, thanks a lot, and thanks for Reality Plus for inviting us to be in this panel. I'd just like to address one or two points that other members have brought up first. Anubhav, spoke about parks and green spaces, and Professor Shah spoke about reducing pollution. And you asked the question about, what is the government's role? Because it's really, cities are created by the development control rules. They play the maximum part in anything else. What the developer can do a fantastic job within a piece of land, but ultimately it's individual plots. So in India, or in Mumbai, we have less than 2 square meters of open space per person, whereas the standards say we should have 10. Where are we going to get this space from? What's happened in our planning principles, if you see, there is a tremendous wastage of space. There's 15% of our land which is actually wasted. If you compare development of any Indian city to any Western city, we have open spaces all around the building, which is not the case anywhere else in the world, right? And that takes up 15% of that space. Now, if that space comes into the public realm, you really solve the problem completely. So not only the solutions are available, and in fact, in the development control rules that Mumbai had proposed before the fiasco of all the mistakes and all, this point was addressed and then it was removed. So this is a very crucial thing. The other point is that pollution, and the only way to bring the pollution down is dependency on cars, which we spoke about, and having mixed use development. But again, it's a development control thing. It's a policy issue to allow that to happen. So the government's role, they don't need any money to actually do this. These are very simple things that they can do. If you look at our urban structure, and we're speaking about urbanization, which is happening, already more than 50% of the population of the city lives in slums, right? We have, and the amount of housing we need to build for slums overall is 10.3 million housing units is what we need to build. So half our people are in slums, and that's a huge health problem. Half our people are in unhealthy spaces, and when things like COVID pandemic happen, it hits them much more than anybody else, and the spread can happen much more. So if we don't deal with half the population, right? If you don't address that issue, you can't address anything else, because everything else would be kind of meaningless if you're not dealing with half the population. So, but we have only one tool in Mumbai to deal with slum rehab, which is SRA. And with SRA, in the last 23 years, they have built only 0.2 million homes, whereas we need 10.3 million homes. So it's going to take us more than 200 years to actually solve the problem with the solution we have in hand. So obviously we need other solutions. Also, what happens with SRA is that it really doesn't solve the problem, because slum dwell, this whole thing of free housing, they get free space, but they actually hand over their health of their family for life. Because already the density of a slum, see, health, you can equate it to density in a sense, how much space. So already a slum is 2 lakh people per square kilometer. 2 lakh people per square kilometer. Average Mumbai plot is 1 lakh. They are 2 lakh already. When you do an SRA, the people living in the slum are further squeezed into about 30% of the land. So their density is now going up 3 times more. So it's going to 6 lakhs. There's no way you can solve the problem of health and ventilation and light by these densities. So it's a fundamentally flawed program which we are following for 23 years. And this is the core of the problem we need to solve. Also, the amount of sales that would need to happen to redevelop all the slums, Mumbai can't absorb it. So if you're saying you need to build free homes, build homes for sale, and then house people free, you need to build so many homes, we can't absorb those. 45,000 homes are sold every year. You need to sell 5 lakh homes, 10 lakh homes every year to support it, which is unsustainable. So this whole model is flawed, will never work unless we solve that mathematically. And that needs to happen with a very different PPP kind of model. It will have to be, a combination of what was done earlier. There's sites and services where people are given cheap loans to redevelop over there and have a very small percentage of sale just to, oil the wheel, so to say. But people have to pay for their homes till we don't realize that, because so people can afford only a 12 lakh square feet home, right? So if they take a loan of an EMI of 5,000 over 30 years, then they can afford a 12 lakh square feet home. So you can't build a 375 square feet house or a 350 in that amount. It has to come down to 200. So they are occupying 100 square feet now without a toilet, without water supply. So what they can for is 200 square feet house with water supply, with toilet, with good ventilation. That is what we need to aim for. That will create more sustainable model rather than free idea which fundamental change that needs to happen in our mindset of our planners. I think it has applied all over the country. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kadri. I think that was some very, very hard-hitting data and numbers, and very compelling reasons that you shared. I'd love to talk more, but again, time is short. But you brought me to a very, very important part of the discussion, and I want to go to Mr. Wadhwa. But before I do that, Mr. Wadhwa, excuse me, because I know I've interacted with you in the past, and I know this particular issue is at the core of what you always talk and think about. I actually read there's a World Bank blog. It's a very interesting blog which talks about, it says it's a tale of three friends. And it's set in Poland in 2004-2005. And it tracks the life of three friends who started together from a same social economic background, and how they settled or acquired real estate in three different parts of a city, and how that changed their life going forward. Is very interestingly written in that blog. So, Mr. Kadri, I think you touched that, and that brings me to Mr. Wadhwa. Again, reclaiming, designing, and planning for the human in the city, rather than the numbers and the volumes, etc., etc. Do you think urban planners, in the true sense, have understood the socio-economic aspects of the society while designing urban areas, or do we all kind of get swayed by the other paraphernalia that comes around it, which is part of our life? And if you have any examples to share, I'd love to hear those as well. So I think I would request you to hit the core of the matter. Are we listening to the actual social and economic requirements while planning the cities and urban areas?
This question is to me?
Yes.
I'm Vijay. We all on this panel have a lot of limitations. We want to do wonders, but we have limitations of the boundary. The land, whatever proposal comes to us, we do within the limitation. My request to you, all of us want to do something good for the city, for the country. Like NANA should be developed on priority basis with big master planning. Today you need big master plan. All of us, Godrej is doing according to them, we are doing according to us. But we have to see the city as a holistic. Kadri Sahab rightly said about slums. All the slums in a big chunk should be planned as a master plan. Now small societies are coming in those slums and developing in isolation. They are making a mess of it. So the real infrastructure, what they really deserve, that is the health, the hospitals, the playgrounds, the schools, other things, are getting diverted, The request is all of us need to request government to take up the projects in not isolation, but in totality. Today, Mumbai city is fully congested. We have limitations. Whatever boundary we are getting within our hands, we do it. So NANA can be developed in a very intelligent way, Kadri ji. So as an architect, if NANA comes to you, you will do wonders in that project. Dharkar Sahab, you will do wonders in that project. You will give them health, you will give them, your quality of air. Regarding our Panvel project, the 450 acres, we try to give sustainable means air quality, the rail, connectivity. We try to do our best. The support we all on this panel need is a chunk of big land where we can really do wonders and plan the things in a totality, not in isolation, That's my thought for this. The subject is very good, but none of us has got control on the government. My request to you is, we all are passionate about our jobs. Please involve government. Please involve Urban Development Secretary, Housing Secretary, Infrastructure Secretary. They should be compelled to take fast decisions. Otherwise, what is happening now in NANA, they have done master planning, but every builder is going in isolation, 50 acres. Ultimately, after 10 years, we will feel that we had a beautiful opportunity in NANA to do something like Singapore or something. But because government is not moving fast in approvals, they have to do a big master plan. They have to settle it down in a with all infrastructure in that. Today there are no roads in Naina. Naina is 5 times bigger than Mumbai. If we don't do it rightly, we are to be blamed ourselves. We are having a panel discussion, but the discussion is of no use unless the people sitting in the government want to do it.
Right.
Kadri Sahib will do but Godrej can do a wonderful job of trees and this underground, but they should get big lands.
Absolutely. Great. No, thank you so much, Mr. Wadhwa. I appreciate, that, and I only hope that in the audience and in our own way, whichever side of the table we sit on, we can impact these decisions and these voices.
नहीं सर, आपको एक रिक्वेस्ट है, कादरी जी ने जो आपसे स्लम की बात किया, आप स्लम डेवलपमेंट की कमेटी से इनकी मीटिंग कराइए. If you really want to be a good anchor, don't be a TV anchor. Try to see that we do justice to the city, we do justice to the public. खाली टीवी में ये बात करके कोई मीनिंग नहीं है भाई साहब. आप इनकी मीटिंग कराइए कि मास्टर.
Sorry, I'm going to pass on that baton to Mr. Dharkar because he's he's perfectly poised as a part of the industry body to take this up in the most appropriate way. So, but I absolutely agree with you. My sincere apologies. I can see the passion coming up now, but we are at the end. I'm getting pings from the organizers to move to the Q&A because there perhaps are some people who would like to not miss the opportunity to ask you some questions. So, Khyati, back to you for any Q&A that the audience would like to address to the panelists. Khyati, you're asking me to add you to the screen, but I don't know how to do that. So,
Mr. Bhatia, I was for the organizers. Thank you. I want to first thank all of you gentlemen for sharing those passionate insights into the subject. I know it's a subject that needs more time, but because of the paucity of time, we have to move to the Q&A. We have a couple of questions coming in from our audience, so I would like to quickly mention it to our panel. During COVID, Indian cities struggled to provide basic facilities, healthcare, and public transport. What can be the top 3 initiatives for building disaster-resistant cities? Mr. Bhatia, would you like to direct it to any of our panelists?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know, Jayant or Mr. Kadri or Mr. Wadhwa, anybody. I mean, it's open.
So basically, what Jayant spoke about, comparing Japan with New York. Firstly, I disagreed with him. It's nothing to do with the urban planning. It's to do with the culture of the people in Japan, where they listen and they wear a mask everywhere, and the New Yorkers don't. So that's fundamentally that. But I think if, the other thing you spoke about is smaller cities, the 15-minute walk, where things are contained within, and they're mixed use. So the more we can do that, where it's walk to work, walk to school, walk to everywhere, where we don't invest as much in cars, but in footpaths which are wide enough with lovely trees and birds, and we can just walk to places. We won't need to be in contained spaces, even like metros, etc., and commute long distances. So even in a large city, you can have neighborhoods and refashion them slowly to become mixed use. So that mixed use is really what will contain people in an area, rather than having them move from place to place too much. The other cultural thing for us Indians is we need servants. We can't survive without people coming into work for us, to cook for us. So actually creating enough space within the community for these people, so that they have safe spaces to live, clean, safe spaces to live, the people who serve us. I think these are the 2 main things we would need to do.
Yeah,
Any
so
would like to add on?
Bhatia ji, regarding the disaster management, today climatic conditions are changing of the world too fast. None of the major developers who are doing development are not doing real research before launching the township. The sea level, the river level, the climatic conditions. Today, जैसे बाढ़ होती है, आपकी rivers go up, the townships go inside the water. Are architects and are developers doing justice to their profession? Nobody in this country is doing that homework. For our Panvel project, we specially went to Hong Kong, invited Hong Kong University to do the research that what is going to be the sea level of Panvel after 20 years. We have heard that every year sea level is going on changing. Today wind pressure is changing. Tycoons are happening. Everything is happening. Our disaster management thinking all those lines. Nobody is working on that. We are thinking in isolation. Master planning needs to be thought from disaster management point of view. There is a proper study to be done on those things. The quality of life of people who buy houses in a township which goes underwater, just tell me what is the stress they will be facing. We have to do justice to our profession. आज क्या है, गवर्नमेंट नहीं ध्यान देती है, गवर्नमेंट अपने काम में बिजी है. Are we doing? Because we save filling cost. The developer and architect 6 फुट फिलिंग की कॉस्ट बचाने के लिए लाइफ भर के लिए वो टाउनशिप को वो रिवर वाटर के अप एंड डाउन फ्लड के लिए टेंशन में डाल देते हैं. आई एम नॉट नेमिंग एनी टाउनशिप, बट वी आर ऑल रिस्पॉन्सिबल. वी ऑल आर ऑन दिस पैनल रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर दैट.
I just wanted to add what Mr. Wadhwa is saying. And he's absolutely right. You see, the problem is that a lot of the development has become privatized. So the onus of doing this is left to those developers that are conscious about this, right? Mr. Wadhwa talked about doing enough research. He didn't have to do it. It's not enforced, right? We at Godrej, we are a pan-India developer. We were building in Bangalore. And most sites in Bangalore, they don't have water. Some sites don't even have a connection from the government. Now, the onus is on us to do enough research to figure out how to recharge the aquifers, and a fair amount of research goes into this, right? And after that, there is all the development pressures of FSI and all of this, right? Now, one doesn't have to do it. Of course, if the onus is left only on conscious developers to do it, I don't think it's enough. And I think there needs to be something better in the large scale of things so that
sir, I agree with you, Vijay ji, sir, that today we have modern tools to do hydrographical surveys and various analysis tools are available to predict future, and we were fortunate to work with sir on that. And we all know that Mumbai is facing such an acute water shortage every year in summer, while they are also experiencing several severe flooding in the monsoon. The topography of Mumbai is such that it is expanded by reclaiming land from the sea and leveling the mangroves, which prevent the natural drainage flow. Now, like other Indian cities, Mumbai also relies on stormwater drains to divert precious rainwater to the sea instead of storing it. Instead of draining water into the sea, it could be discharged into underground storages or into the soil to replenish groundwater, which can solve dual problem of flooding. People question this, and let us look at Tokyo. Tokyo, for if people who don't know, has a channel consisting of 5 giant cisterns and 6.5 kilometer long tunnel that leads to huge underground storage tank, and that is how they have been able to sustain that big development. So retention of basins are like artificial lakes that are meant to manage stormwater runoff, which can be strategically designed and placed in low-lying areas to stop water flowing to the flooding streets of Mumbai. Now, these wetlands, which provide water treatment, flood protection, carbon storage, habitat, recreation, and aesthetic value, can be created keeping desired hydraulic flow and ecology in mind. And this is what, and as Mr. Wadhwa said, this is a government job. It has to be done in large scale. This is equivalent work of doing metros in Mumbai. But this is a time when professionals of this field should come forward, and it has to be done. Otherwise, we are living in a dream paradise.
I think I'll just add on because as an architect planner or as a builder, Mr. Wadhwa is there, and my friend Rahul is there, Kadri ji. We need to understand that the basics are not being adhered. We when we are talking about luxury housing or any other housing, we talk about skyscrapers. That's not the solution. We have more disaster management in the skyscraper than if I do, low-rise, high density. That is what is missing for my Indian architecture, sustainable architecture. I need to address that I can achieve an FSI with high density, low rise, and which is also good for my climatical condition. I am not respecting my sun. I am not respecting my natural resources. Then I say, oh, I am doing all green in respect of some active ways of, green architecture. But perhaps if we understand the passive ways, the real Vastu Shastra of Indian science, and we'll be able to create that human settlement where we need less of energy by itself. No, I do not need to conserve, but I need to consume less energy, consume less water by way of my activating my design in terms of physical planning, which is to be addressed. That is what I think.
As if you are giving a good quality of U value to the glass, your energy level you are saving 30%. So this is a conscious decision with a builder and the architect should take.
But I said, U value of a glass at what cost? How much is the embodied energy that
sir, I'll tell you, we have to do justice to our profession. A petty cost in long run is going to save a lot.
This is a matter of debate. I would rather just tell you, in case I do not wish to place cloths on the glared west sun, and I put my glass on the glare-free north, shaded south, or in some sorts of a difference where I create that sort of maximizing daylight, minimizing heat gain, but in terms of the oscillation of the sun, I stimulate the building. As my friend Pankaj has said, I can stimulate the building that how I can produce that sort of an architecture which is sustainable. I'm just saying I am narrating you, we made a mall which is non-air conditioned in near Raipur, which is just on the basic elements of understanding and how the sun oscillates, and you cut the harsh sun. That is what is required. Today is the time when we are as an architect. I wish that I respect the natural resources. I make net zero. I produce my water, as Pankaj has said. Let's see that I create a lake. I create some sort of a thing, within. And once I make a large, like Godrej or other people, you make large campuses. Why can't we have some sort of a place where I try to put in all my rainwater and use it by purification into my construction? These are basic things which can be taken care of. I don't need any government help. And all the projects you large promoters and builders and can create with no government help and make them net zero, even beyond net zero. That is the type of thing, we wish that we create, not a cosmetic architecture, but organic architecture, which respect the sun, the wind, and the natural resources. I wish that if we start looking at it, my friend will agree, all my architects friend and the planners, that let's see that we create a new India, which is Indian architecture. And if you see all Jaipur, Jaisalmer, mutual stating, all this has been done, and we're forgetting our architecture and we're copying the West. It is not only intervention, but it's empowering the global flavor. And I talk about U values. Why should I talk about U values? I should talk about window ratio. That can be done.
Sorry,
thank you very much.
Khyati is threatening to shut us down, and she holds the technology, so I won't be able to do anything. So
it's such a passionate subject, sir. I can only see the passion coming from you, and we can only hope for a better future with such passionate minds coming together in a collaborative effort. So thank you to all of you for spending this time with us and sharing your insights. It's been a wonderful conversation, such insightful points taken for all of us who are sitting at home and listening to all of you. Mr. Bhatia, would you like to just conclude with a few words?
No, I just want to say thank you. I've learned a lot. from everyone, in fact. And I think we are in all good hands, because despite all the discussions, I think what Mr. Wadhwa said is we need to first address the problem at its core. We need to recognize the problem and then plan for it. And I'm sure it won't be easy. And many people have to, and many agencies, whether it's government, private, or whatever, have to be involved. But I think as long as we know that there is an issue and we want to address it, that's the first right step. And again, on that note, thank you all. Very, very thankful to you. You've been very patient. You've been very kind, and really loved it to be a part of this panel with all of you. I look forward to future interactions. Thank you all.
Thank you once again,
Thank you
gentlemen.
very much. Thank you.
So much for your time. You know, they say that good buildings come from good people, and all problems can be solved by good design. And we're only hoping that good people like you come together with all stakeholders in the industry to make our country a better country in the future. So thank you once again so much to all of you for being part of this panel. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we still had so many questions to ask this panel, but we are short on time, so we're going to quickly move on to our next discussion,